Get ready to get sticky. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, which obviously you already know because I'm unforgettable. Right now, whatever platform you're listening on, if you haven't already given us a follow or subscribe, do that. Give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review if your platform allows for it. Everyone, go like Sticky Situations page on Facebook. Follow Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram. Follow Sticky Situations Pod on TikTok. Go join our Loop group. I always forget about the Loop group, and I don't know why, but it occurred to me after I recorded a bunch of episodes that I didn't mention the Loop group. So go join the Loop group. It's a lot of fun. You can maybe we can make some matches out of it. Like that's always my goal. And speaking of matches, if you would like to date any single guest that I've had on the podcast, you can reach out. There are applications on the social somewhere, but just send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email on Instagram at Sticky Situations Pod. And the email is stickysituationspod@gmail.com. Same goes for if you would like to be a guest on my podcast. I'm trying to get more guests. So, everyone, this is your call to action. Come be a guest on Sticky Situations. I don't care your background, your age. I don't care your relationship status. Even if you've been married for like years and years and years, but you have wild dating stories from your past, come be a guest. I don't care your location. And you'll see that soon. This episode we're recording from all the way around the world. So whatever location you're in, I want to hear about your dating stories. I want to hear about life there. I want to hear about everything. I don't care your sexuality. If you're gay, straight, bi, anything, come on the podcast and talk about it. Your religious denomination, you don't have to be Orthodox. You don't have to even really be observant at all. Just come on the podcast and talk about it. This is a very open Jewish dating podcast. So I want to hear about all your experiences, tell all your stories. So yeah, if you want to be a guest, there are applications in all of my Corona Crush posts, or you can set, and they're on the socials too somewhere, or just send me a DM. Again, that's Sticky Situations Pod, or send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. So yeah, come be a guest on the podcast. But so let's get into today's episode because I'm really excited for this one. I have an extra special guest today. So everyone, please welcome my friend Polina. Polina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hi,
Thanks for being
Rachel.
here. Guys, I just want you
Good
to
to see
know
you.
that I'm up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday to record with Paulina, mostly because I thought I had a bunch going on today. So I wanted to like make sure we got this done. But yeah, I'm very dedicated to this. So again, if you're around the world, I will maybe get up for you at 8 a.m. on a Sunday to record or make it work for a different time. But yeah, Polina, I'm so excited to have you on. Before we get into your stories and everything, can you just tell me and my listeners a little bit more about you, some describing details, your age, location, relationship status, and religious denomination?
Wonderful. So my name is Polina and I'm 39 years old. I was born in Ukraine, in Kiev, and I grew up in Austria, in Graz. And right now, for the last 8 years, I've been living in Munich, Germany. I'm single. And I'm secular, meaning I don't eat pork. I do the high holidays. I consider myself a traditional Jew, but I'm not religious. I'm not modern Orthodox. I consider myself traditional, as said. Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, so should we jump right in? Should we just jump right into some dating stories?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
very thrilled. I'm super happy to be here. I'm super excited. And thanks again for getting up so early on a Sunday morning.
No, it's my fault. Guys, to be fair, Paulina did give me a bunch of time options. And one of my friends had mentioned like doing something today. So I was like, okay, but I want to do this recording. So I'm like, I'll get up early, we'll do the recording, and then we'll go do whatever. Those plans got changed a little bit, but I was like, you know what? This is still good. we'll record. I'll go have my whole Sunday. Also, we're recording the day after Yom Kippur, which was on Shabbat. So I fasting just exhausts me. So I crashed really early last night. So we're all good.
Yeah, so this is a really special episode.
Yeah, it's really special. This is our first recording, technically, of well, I did have one record between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but this is our first recording post Yom Kippur in the Jewish New Year.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. So so let's get into it.
Yeah, so shall I just start with my sort of first sticky situation or
Yeah.
yeah, so I remember this yeah, we're not gonna name any names and stuff, right? As you said. So I really remember this dating story, which was actually I was in my think it was mid 20s, actually like 22, 23, something like that, maybe a bit earlier. And I was flying to Copenhagen to date someone there. Um he uh he gave a concert. He was a very known musician, I'd say.
Wow.
Very known in the classical music scene. Um, I think I have to add that I come from a music family. My dad plays the piano, my mom plays the cello, so I was raised like a very Ashkenazi Jew. I was raised with music in the household. Uh, I also perform, I also do jazz singing, and I also play the piano. So
Wow.
I was flying all the way from Vienna at that time to Copenhagen, to Denmark,
Wow.
to meet this guy. And yeah, and then I met him, and it became, well, he was way shorter than me. But to start off with, right? I mean, we do like some men who are taller, right? I mean, let's be frank. But
Yeah. It's hard for me to
yeah,
find someone who's shorter than me. I'm sure if I would have to like think about it a second. I try to think that I'm open-minded to things, but if a guy's shorter than me, he might be a legal midget. Like, I don't know. Sorry if a legal small person. I don't know. I don't want to be I don't want to offend anyone, but like it's very hard for a guy to be shorter than me.
okay. Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I think for a Jewish woman, I'm pretty tall. I think it's 172, which is, I believe, 6.2
Let
in
me look
in
it up.
American size. It's like
172.
172
Once
centimeters, which is pretty okay. I'm not too tall. I'm not too too
five
small.
foot. It's like almost I think it's like 5'7".
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Yeah. Anyway, so but he was like literally like I'm just showing like until here, I mean, okay, you
It's
guys
like
cannot see.
right below her shoulders.
He was right below my shoulders, but I was like, okay, he's famous. He's a world-known musician. Everyone knows him. He's a very talented musician. Like, it's not easy, sort of, to get in contact with someone like this in order to date a person like this. So I was like extremely excited, and I was like super nervous, and like my whole family was like, I remember I talked to my grandmother. Uh, I mean, she was like, "You gotta happen, you gotta work it out. I mean, come on, it's gonna happen." So, kind of long story short, what was like super funny is like I remember we met in that hotel in the lobby, and we said hello, and then he took me right after to the concert. So it turned out that I was sitting in the concert hall right next to his parents. Um,
Wow.
Yes, which is, I mean, okay, we get it. It's an Ashkenazi Jew, also Slavic Jew. We get it that, you have I mean, that's a Jewish thing, right? To be super close with your parents. Okay, it's not only the Jewish people, also the Italians. That's a different story. Anyway, so I was sitting, like, the concert was fantastic. Everything was great. And then after the concert, we went to dinner. And it turned out literally that we never had one single moment without his mom. So we were sitting at the dinner table. It was me, him, and then his mom. And
Oh my
that was like,
gosh.
that turned out to be our first date. And I remember the scene, and this is actually the scene I really want to put out in the world there, which was very exceptional. I remember the scene where his mom did order soup, and she gave him this, and he was like trying to talk to me, and I was like, okay, this is already awkward because your mom is joining this whole date, right? But to add this whole thing, she like she took the soup, um, she took the soup plate, and she was like, "You gotta try this, honey. It's so delicious." And I'm like sitting there, and I see that she puts the soup bowl right under his nose and goes like, "Oh, honey, you really have to taste this. It's so delicious."
Oh
And he
my
looks at me, and
gosh.
he's like obviously super embarrassed, right? But so he tastes the soup and he goes like, "Oh yeah, mom, you're right. It's really, really good." Um, but this whole, I mean, yeah, I mean, no, this was our first date. I mean, it was the three of us with his mom. And yeah, I thought like of all the top stories I noted and wrote down.
No, that's so
It
weird.
was
So wait, did you see him again after that? Like you flew all the way to Copenhagen just to have dinner with him and his mom?
Yeah, can you imagine that? I mean, he showed me like actually the next day we had a great time. We experienced we were walking around. I mean, he showed me Copenhagen, and it turned out that he's a really great guy. But it's just, you know, I mean, it turned out that, we're ended up being sort of friends. I mean, it was kind of the thing is like because I was so extremely nervous, I felt like I wasn't authentic enough, you know. Um and Yeah, and I think he also felt like super embarrassed because there was, he couldn't just say like, "Mom, I'm gonna go on a first date," and then we're gonna, it was like we had like I think I wouldn't call it a bad start, but it was definitely a very awkward start. And although we spent like the next day, he showed me around, we had a great time in Copenhagen. Unfortunately, things just didn't work out. And I saw him like I believe like 10 years after, and he got married, and he has two kids now and stuff. And it's funny because one of his daughter he actually named after me,
Really?
um which is super sweet. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like not exactly after me, but it was just, it's just the same name. So but no, it was just I think it was a very special occasion, like a very special encounter, so to say. But it was very, yeah, it was just very clear that we're not meant to be together. We're not meant to be for each other.
So wait, was his mom nice to you? Like, did she talk to you?
No, she was incredibly nice, but she was like, a typical Jewish mom. She was like taking care of her kid. And she was very Jewishly in the way that it's actually funny because I heard that his now wife, she kind of really managed to put her mom, I'm sorry, to manage to put his mom a bit aside, you know, and yeah, I mean, I think it's never easy, right? Especially with Jewish moms. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally hear. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever had a similar issue, but yeah, that's too funny. But wait, how far is the flight from Vienna to Copenhagen?
hmm, actually, let me Google this for a second because it's not so far.
Like,
Um,
so it wasn't like a big deal for you to hop on a plane to go to Vienna or to go from Vienna to Copenhagen?
uh, it was not a big deal. But I mean, still, it's kind of weird to fly. Um, to fly from one place to another in order to date someone, right? But this is like what this is what we do. It's not so far. I'm just checking this flight duration is, oh, it's 1 hour, 40 minutes. So that's,
Oh, okay,
uh,
but that's still like a sig like you're still on a plane for almost 2 hours,
yeah, yeah. But
plus the
again,
airport time.
yeah, I think you're right. But I think it's our kind of, it's our, I don't know, like, I grew up in a place where we do not have a very we do not have a big Jewish community, so it's almost impossible to find someone Jewish.
Hmm.
Like in Vienna, there is a bit of choice, but still, Graz is the second biggest city. Um, and we have a very small Jewish community, so it's almost impossible to meet someone here. So I was always kind of, in my 20s, I was always kind of, okay, that's normal. Either you go to Vienna and you meet someone there, or you take the flight in order to, if you really want someone Jewish, which was, not negotiable for me, because that was like really something very important and still is something very important to me.
Yeah. So wait, where was he living in Copenhagen at the time?
No, he was not living. He had, he was a musician, as I told you, and he had a tour actually. He had a European tour, and it
Oh,
happened that
okay.
he had a concert in Copenhagen at this day. So he invited me to come, and he said like in advance, listen, I'm gonna have this concert, but I'd love to take you out afterwards, and then we can spend I believe I think it was a weekend. I'm not sure though, because it's been ages ago. But yeah, I mean, I really had a great impression of Copenhagen. I really love the city, and it's a very, I don't know if you've ever been to Denmark, but it's a lovely city. It's very beautiful, nice architecture. I'm really like the memories I share from this experience are really like super, super great.
That's good. At least you got like something good out of it. You have a good story and you have like good memories of the city.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's funny though. It is very sticky situation.
It is, right? Like, I mean, the moment you go on a date, you don't expect to be on a date with the parents, right? Be it
Yeah.
with a dad or, um, I mean, I know, like, I think it's a bit of a Jewish thing that we're all kind of, I mean, we're supposed to take care of our parents, right? I think it's important. It's why we're here for, right? It's uh it's a huge Jewish value as well. But on the other hand, I think it's important to have your own life and have a bit of a separation. And I remember he was also way older than me, like not way older. I believe it was like, what was it like 5, 6 years older, which is okay. It was not a big of age difference. Um, but yeah, I mean, he was literally going on concerts, being with his parents around.
That's so funny. I never had anyone's parents around. I won't tell the whole story now because this is actually a really long story that I'll tell you guys at some point in time. But it wasn't a date exactly, but basically my uncle was in town for something and he wanted me to meet someone who was on his trip. So I met up with with the guy, but my uncle, like, so it was like the three of us, we went out for breakfast. Yeah, that was interesting also.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's not the end of the world. I was thinking actually, I mean, obviously it's a bit awkward if you're meeting a person for the very first time, but then on the other hand, if you think of it, if something turns out with the guy or with the girl, right? And then sort of how the parents are, because if it gets serious, it's just a question of time until you sort of meet the parents, right? So
Yeah,
that you can have a feeling if you can have a feeling if this family kind of suits you, because the moment you marry, you marry into that family, right?
yeah.
So, like judging it from this perspective, maybe it's not the worst thing on this planet, but still, like if it's too early in the dating stage, it's just you know not appropriate.
Yeah. No, 100% agreed. It's awkward no matter
Yeah,
what.
it's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, you should have seen that. Like, you should have seen the scene when she was like literally sticking the soup bowl under his nose, and she goes like, "Please try it, honey."
Did she know that you were there to like have a date with him?
Of course, yeah, of course she knew. Of course she knew. And I mean, I'm sure she was judging me too, right? And I was just sitting there like a bundle of. I was like super nervous. Of
Yeah.
course. I mean, you're flying, see someone you've never seen before, because at that time, I believe we did not. At that time there was no FaceTime or there was no like Facebook Messenger in order so that you would, I don't know, like talk before and then get on a video and to see, okay, how does this person actually look like?
Mhm.
Like I knew how he looked like from photos, and but again, it's a different league if you know that you're dating someone who is a celebrity.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. No, I would have been so nervous also.
Yeah.
But wow. Okay, so Paulina, do you want to move on to your next story?
Um, yeah, or do you want to ask me some questions? Because I have to sort a bit of my stories because it's like
Yeah,
so many
sure.
stories, you know?
Sure. Um, I guess maybe like just to give us more of a background like of your dating journey. So this was when you were living in Vienna. So you were dating in Vienna and then now you're dating in Munich, correct?
Yes, like now I'm dating in Munich, yeah. I mean, for the last 8 years I've been living in Munich. And I have to say, just for our listeners, I think it's a bit maybe difficult to understand, but um dating in Europe, especially in the German speaking countries, is not an easy task at all. Because first of all, they're not like now, well, of course you have JSwap, you have JDate, you have all the online dating platforms, right? But just to give you an idea, it's not like dating in Israel or dating in the States. I mean, if you're dating in New York, you do have a choice. Like in Europe, it becomes not an easy task at all. Like you gotta put yourself out there. You gotta go on those Jewish gatherings, on the Jewish this machanot and stuff. But per se, you really have to put an effort in because it's not like you're living in Paris or London where you have a very big Jewish community and where you can literally go out every night and meet someone new. The German speaking countries are pretty, everyone knows each other and it's not an easy task if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like I live in New York City, but a lot of the reason why I live here is to give myself opportunities to like meet someone. And I mean, it's not all about that. It's like this is where it's a nice community of young professionals. Like I a lot of people don't understand it because like my whole life is based around this. Like my whole social circle is mostly my friends from my community. And yeah, also in New York, you have like a ton of options of people to date. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but in reality, like there are so many people that I don't know, and I'm reminded of that like all the time. Like I went to a I went to Yom Kippur yesterday and 2 days ago. And one of the organizations in my neighborhood does huge Yom Kippur. We actually talked about it a couple episodes ago, with one of the guys who runs it. And so I walked in, it was a room of 400 people and all young professionals in like from my community. And I looked at my friend and I'm like, I literally haven't seen half the people in this room ever in my entire life, which is funny. Like I've been living in my neighborhood for a few years. So it's like it's funny that I still go to things in my neighborhood and I'm like, I have no idea who any of these people are. So yeah, you are right in the sense that like in New York, especially, I'm sure in Israel it's very similar. I'm sure in Israel it's even more so because like it's just a whole country full of Jews. And Israel, everything's closer together. So even if you live in one area, like dating someone somewhere else isn't like the equivalent probably of dating between like let's say for example Jerusalem and Tel Aviv is like for me here dating between the city and like Long Island. Like it's not like a huge thing. But
Yeah,
um but yeah, no,
yeah,
I totally get it.
definitely.
Cuz I come
Yeah.
from like a smaller community and like people ask me they're like, "Oh, you would never like move home, you would never do this." And I was like, "Probably not ever, but like definitely not single. Like there are no single people there. Like there are a few, but I know them all. Also, I date a little bit more religious. Like modern Orthodox, kind of, but and all the Orthodox single people I know.
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like it's a bit easier if you want to date someone who's like modern Orthodox, or at least, I don't know, Shomer Shabbat, or um I feel like it's a bit easier because sort of that, like I feel like then the circle gets a bit smaller in a better sense because you know exactly what you're looking for. Whereas in the secular world, I feel like it's, how do I put this? I don't know. I think it's a bit more difficult because people do have like a bit different values. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
like modern Orthodox is just like, okay, you both keep kosher, for instance, right? You both are Shomer Shabbat. So some things are clear from the very beginning. This is what I'm trying to say, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, sometimes, but also then you run into the issue of like my issue is I'm modern Orthodox. I keep Shabbat, I keep kosher. Certain things I'm more lenient about, but like I find that the guys who I meet, I rarely meet people who are on the same page as me. Like, because a lot of the time I'll meet guys who want someone who does more. Like, I wear pants, I don't want to cover my hair. I like those types of things. And even like with the kosher and Shabbos, like certain things I'm kind of chill about. Like, I'm lax. I
Yeah.
like just don't like I don't care as much. So it's hard to find someone. So I find that the any guy who's a little bit more religious, like the second I say I don't want to cover my hair, even though it's like totally based off of my body, like nothing to do with him, he's like, oh, okay, bye. Like the anyone who's like a little more religious is not going to like date a little bit less religious. And then if I date guys who are a little less religious, it's hard because I'm like, okay, you don't really keep Shabbat or like certain kosher things, like I don't care per se, especially like if it's just affecting him. Like I want a kosher home, but like I don't
Yeah.
necessarily care if he wants to like go out to lunch with his coworkers or
Right.
like go out to dinner with his friend. Like certain things I don't care about, but like it's still like I want to have like Shabbat in my home.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I understand. But like even if you were like after marriage, you wouldn't cover your hair, is that something principal to you where you say like no, you don't want that? Or would you be
yeah.
open after that? So it's a print
No,
like
like
yeah.
I think I used to be open to it, but I just I don't want to. I'll wear a hat in the synagogue. I'm very respectful, like same as I am now. Like if I go to an event in the synagogue, well, obviously on Shabbat I'm wearing a dress, like I'm wearing a skirt, wearing a dress. But if I go to an event that's in the synagogue, even not on Shabbat, I still try to put on a skirt.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I would be similar to that. Like if I have to go to the kids' school, like I'd put a hat on. If I have to into the synagogue, like I would put a hat on. But like
Yeah.
I just like I don't see myself buying like a shaitel, like a wig to cover my hair always. Like I it's not what I want.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, and I think this is also the beautiful part of Judaism, right? Because you get to define what feels comfortable and what feels right for you, and where you can identify yourself with, and what you're not willing to, give up to. And I think this is the beautiful thing of being Jewish, right? That you have this choice, that no one is forcing you, that it's really your own decision whether you're going to commit to something or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just hard with dating because some people are very like flexible with things and open-minded, and some people are just like they have a checklist of what they want in someone, and that's it. And like I'm not saying it's just guys or just girls. Like I have female friends who also have a checklist, like a religious checklist of things that they want in a guy. Like me
Wow.
for the most part, like if he wants to like if it only affects him, I don't care what he does. He can do that. Like, yeah, I like it when I go out with a guy and he wears yarmulke, but I don't need it. Like, I've had very good dates with guys who I've gone out with and they were not wearing yarmulkes. Like, it's not a deal breaker.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's his
I
body,
understand.
so it's his
His
choice.
body, he decides.
Yeah. I'm very big on your own body is your own choice. Like, it doesn't affect me. Like, if he wants to pray 3 times a day, like, great. That's on him.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to, fine. That's also like that's his decision. It's personal.
Yeah. It's personal. Definitely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to start with my second dating story.
Okay.
So, when I was in New York, actually, I'm thinking that my best dating stories were literally when I was like 25, 26. Like mid-20s, really. It's really the memorable dating stories, I'd say. Um, I was visiting because I've got family in New York City. And I was visiting family. I was out there with my parents and with my sister. We went to New York City for I think we stayed there like for 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
And yeah, we had a great time. And I put on J Date, not to waste any time. And uh um I met a great guy actually. And he was living back then in Brooklyn. So we had a great date. We went out. It was really fantastic. We had a great time and stuff. Um, but when I was actually it was I believe in total I was dating like 2 or 3 guys within just 2 weeks.
Wow.
And one of them actually came all the way to Europe afterwards, after we dated, which is, I mean, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Um, and the other one, and that's kind of which find hard is the other one just told me like, I'm sorry, but you're in Europe. I'm not looking for someone long distance. Like I need someone here, which is understandable, but I was a bit of disappointed because I felt this, if you feel like this chemistry and if you feel like it really could have been something great. Um, so yeah, and then he told me like, I'm sorry, but this is not for me. And then years went by actually, and we still kind of, just stayed in contact a bit. Um, and then one day he told me that he got married. He got married and he met his wife on JDate actually. And they do you remember at the time where they had like an advertising where they put like the ads from JDate on Times Square? Like a huge
No.
yeah, so they were like advertising JDate, and then he sent me the picture where he was with his wife on his wedding day, all in the wedding, clothes, and they put him on Times Square for an
Wow.
ad of JDate. Can you like they met on JDate, and it was the ad for that, and I was like, wow.
Wow.
Like, can you just imagine to have your face all on Times Square
No, I can't.
advertising a Jewish dating platform?
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, it's I feel like I'm happy that it didn't turn out because I feel like it wasn't the right for me, but it was definitely someone very, very interesting and someone very special. But
If like
yeah,
things had worked out, would you have moved? Would you have moved? Or you would
yes, I
want
would
him
have
to
moved.
move?
No, I would have moved because um I'm open to relocate for the right person. I definitely am. Um, I work for an American company, so for me, it's I don't. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I would have to talk to my boss about it, but I hope like if I would meet someone overseas, um, I think I would be open to it, but um, I think what would be important is just to see, like, to say, listen, I'm gonna do this for you, but I want to be engaged, or I want to have the certainty that we do get married. Like, not to put anyone, on the spot, like no
Yeah.
pressure. But, if you're doing this move, right? I mean, it has to be something that you can, count on. Um, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this wasn't serious in the slightest, but like I matched with this guy who lives in LA on like a dating app, and we talked for like maybe a week. Like it wasn't serious at all. And like in my head, I'm like, this guy lives in LA. Like this nothing's gonna happen. I think he like wasn't religious. And in my mind, I'm like, whatever, I'm bored. Like I like talking to him and I'm bored. So like, let's see. But like we kept going around in circles about this, and he was like, okay, but will you move to LA? And I was like, if you put a ring on my finger. And then he's
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
okay, but like he's like, move to LA so we can date. And I'm like, I'm not uprooting my entire life to just date. Like, no, I need a ring. He's like, okay, but we don't know each other. And I'm like, okay, well, it was I don't think he took it seriously either. I think it was just like a joking like circle that we went through. Um, and eventually he was just like, I just don't think I can do anything real long. Like we texted for a week. It wasn't anything like we never like had a FaceTime call or whatever. And I even said that I was like, bro, like this isn't that serious. Like we could have gotten on a FaceTime call and hated each other. Like
Yeah.
it's not that serious. But like at the end of the day, he was like, yeah, I just don't think I can like do a long distance thing. And I'm like, that's totally fine. Like I didn't think this was anything serious anyways, but I was like, if you're ever in New York, hit me up. Like maybe we can actually meet. We might even hate each other.
Yeah.
So like then it's like a moot point no matter what. But I totally get it. Like I definitely like would love to relocate somewhere else outside of New York City. But at the end of the day, I'm not uprooting what I have here for anything less than getting married.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is like such an important point because I feel like, um, well, I think it's an age thing. I mean, as I told you, I'm approaching the big 40.
it's exciting.
And I mean, obviously you do reflect on, okay, what happened the last 20 years, more or less? Because like for me, uh, beginning from age 22, for me it was like very, very clear that for me it's important to have a Jewish partner. Although I grew up in an environment which was not religious. I like all the knowledge that I have about Judaism is something that I taught myself, reading books, going to this machanot, Shabbatot, etc. But I I used to live in Berlin, and also like I was going also to kind of bigger cities where I knew there would be more Jewish people, so that I could eventually meet someone and get married and have kids, right? But if you come from a small place, like I know the people here around me in my age, uh, the ones that do get married, these are all intermarriages.
Oh wow.
A few of them manage to find a Jewish partner and move to Vienna or move to, another place where sort of you could give your kids a Jewish kindergarten, or, a bit of a Jewish background, so to say, Jewish knowledge. But um, like for me, it was always very difficult to meet someone Jewish. Like for me, it was always like I had to go somewhere in order to meet someone, or meet like in the middle, and this is what I'm saying, like with all those long distance things, it's difficult, you lose time. And also, I think it's more to say, listen, I want to be married, like in the sense of, listen, I want after a certain months or da da da, I want this commitment from you. And I feel like for guys, it's extremely difficult to commit. Like, I feel like they do not want to take any responsibility. And that, like, it depends. Like, I'm not saying like it's an age thing, but I feel like in our world, um, with all feminism and stuff, I feel like guys are very intimidated. Like they don't like, I don't know if intimidated is the right word, but they feel very insecure. I think insecure is the better word.
Yeah. Intimidated
And
works too.
sorry?
I said intimidated works too.
Yeah. But I feel like yeah, thank you. Yeah, as I said, English is not my native language, so pardon if I make any mistakes.
No,
Um,
you're great.
but
You're
I
doing
feel like,
great.
thank you. I feel like this responsibility, like that I know from my father, that I know from my grandfather, that I know like from my family, and my parents are married for 41 years, and I couldn't have a better example of how I want, like I feel incredibly grateful and thankful that my parents are still together because they're my role models, right? But again, in Soviet times, you got married at age, I don't know, beginning in your 20s, you had like my mom had me when she was 26. Um, and then you look back and you go like, wow, I'll be turning 40. Like, what the hell did go wrong? And I did have relationships with non-Jewish guys and really good relationships actually. Really like serious ones where they met my parents and where we were thinking to put this on a different level, but there was always something inside of me which told me like, no, I want a Jewish family. I don't want to compromise on things that are so important to me.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I I don't have the same experience because like I haven't really like dated non-Jews. I haven't really given opened that door and I probably won't. I mean, again, I'm 30 and like I don't know what my life is gonna bring me, but like I do really try to it's not even only that I try to only date Jews, I try to only date in the Orthodox community. And like sometimes though I do meet guys who aren't as religious and like there is a better connection, but you have to I have to think about it like, is this what I want? Like, this isn't how I envision my family. But I don't know. I go back and forth on it. Like, or like in my 20s, it was really important. I had and I've talked about it a lot. Like, I had a pretty semi-serious relationship with a guy. Like, we did talk about like a timeline of getting engaged and what our future would look like. And ultimately, we broke up because we talked about what our future would look like and what we had in mind was not the same thing as far as religiously. So that has kind of shaped my experience afterwards in dating guys who are less religious. But I don't know, as I get further into my 30s, which is not that far. I mean, when you guys are listening to this, I will be in my 30s because I'll be 31. But
Right.
I don't know, it's just like sometimes you have a connection with somebody and but again, the Jewish thing like is important. Like at the end of the day, even if I met someone who doesn't fully keep kosher or Shabbat, I would still want him to have like a strong Jewish identity. And especially like all that's going on in the world right now with Israel, like I couldn't imagine like I talk about it with my coworkers. I'm actually very vocal about it at work. My my one of my bosses, I have a few like supervisors. One of my bosses is like she like agrees with me on a lot of things politically. So like sometimes like we'll talk political stuff that maybe other people don't want to hear. And so I say things to her about like the about everything with Israel and all the anti-Semitism and everything going on in the world. And like she'll talk about it with me. And I have one Jewish coworker and we talk about it. But I said something the other day. We are recording this, like I said, the day after Yom Kippur, which if anybody remembers all the way back to the fall, by the time you guys are listening, it was the week of October 7th, the 1 year anniversary of October 7th. And like that day, I live in New York City. And that day, like everybody in all my group chats were sending around like flyers, posts, everything, just warnings to everyone in the city about like major protests going on from the other side. protesting, and I had seen it was actually a beautiful day in New York City that day. It was like, and this is 70 degrees outside, 75 degrees outside. And usually during lunchtime, I like to go, I take a walk. There's a park nearby. I go sit in the park and I eat my lunch. But that day, I did see, like, in my usual lunch spot, of course, there was going to be a protest. So I'm like, I'm just not going outside. I don't want to run into any protests. I don't want to like deal with this. Obviously, I went to something after work um to commemorate October 7th and whatever, that's a different thing. But during work, we were talking about it, and I was talking about it with my boss, and she was like, she was saying, "Oh, it's beautiful out," because she had just gone outside. I was like, "Oh, yeah, but I'm so like, I'm not going out. I don't want to run into any trouble. I know that there's a protest there, and like, it's just awful." And then I was saying how awful it is, how awful. I'm like, they're literally, it's basically the equivalent of people protesting 9/11 in New York City. Like, it's just awful. And a different boss of mine overheard, and he just like, he's an American guy. I don't think he's like against Israel or anything. I just think he doesn't know. And I had a whole like circular conversation with him. I definitely lost him at some point. And he's like, "Oh, but this side and that side." I'm like, "Okay, but that side has been proven wrong about the XYZ facts. Like, those aren't facts, those are made up." And like, I had like a pointless conversation. I felt like it was a pointless conversation because I don't think he understood what I was saying. And basically it ended with like, "Look, like, I understand, like, you see what's in the media and that's not always correct. But that's what you're basing it off of. But like, I've had 25 plus years of education about this and I continue to be educated about this. I have friends, family in Israel. Everyone I know knows somebody who has lost someone, whether they have lost someone personally or they know of somebody who has lost someone, a family member, a friend, whether in the attack or in the war, like soldiers. And I'm like, I walked away from the conversation. I'm like, wow, I wonder what it would be like to wake up
Yeah,
on October 7th and not have to, not even realize what day it was, not have
yeah,
your news
yeah,
feed filled with everything, not have, just not be ignorant
yeah,
to it all.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
like, and that, I think since October 7th, 2023, especially, it reinforced in me that like, no matter what happens to me religiously, like what I decide to do or who I decide to date, like, I need someone who with a strong and proud Jewish identity.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, like I couldn't agree more to this, Rachel. I think after October 7th, I think just it just gave so much awareness, and it kind of confirmed also, no matter how difficult it is, and I mean, you're recording this podcast, right? And you heard like so many dating stories, right? And
Yeah.
even if it's like, I feel like, yeah, I feel like we're kind of all, we're very sophisticated. It's not like, like we know what we want, but ultimately it really comes down on compatibility. And I really feel like, I don't know, I feel like if I reflect on my dating stories the last 20 years, I feel like I was like always looking for the one. But now, like, I don't think it's really the one. I think it's just a person who's willing to agree on your flaws, and a person who is willing to work the shit out of you. Yeah, like who's agreeing to accept you the way you are. This is what you really want. And someone who goes through life with you, holding your hand, and who's not going to judge you. And like, if I reflect back on my dating stories again, I feel like I think criticizing too much, like, like always, I think it's like so important to reflect and see, like, okay, what did go wrong? And I just found for myself, okay, I've been criticizing way too much because I come from an artistic background, because I'm used to, the moment you're on stage, you got to perform, you got to have like a perfect, you got to perform and you got to be the perfect version of yourself. But ultimately, if you want to come home, you just need and want an environment where you can relax and be yourself and be accepted and loved for the way you are. um and I think it's not a question of age, actually, because I strongly believe that you can, because you're saying you're in your 30s. um of course there's a timeline timeline when it says like for biological clock because I mean, let's be frank. I mean, we're women, right? So we do have
Mhm.
a biological clock ticking. But like for me, I just said like for me, it's important personally to be with the right person, to be with the right partner, than to put kids out in the world to like I feel like a kid needs a father and a mother. Like,
Yeah.
I see like in Israel and I see also in Germany, like I think worldwide, it's like the moment you hit 40, you're like, okay, are you gonna go to the sperm bank and just have a kid on your own? So, like because you get this extra pressure, or are you gonna freeze your eggs or whatever, right? And I think it's like I feel like everyone, like society, like I mean, I think first of all, it's a business idea with this whole egg freezing. Like I don't
Oh yeah.
remember when I mean, honestly, yeah, like I don't remember like when our parents were in their 20s that anyone would talk about egg freezing.
Yeah. I I do want to talk about this topic. But I think let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll come right back because I have opinions on this too, and I definitely want to talk about this. So stay tuned in a couple minutes, and we will be right back. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself or have a friend post you and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Sticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929 376 9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. Okay, we're back, everybody. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think we definitely only started hearing more and more about egg freezing, IVF, all of these fertility treatments and everything in probably like the last 5, 10 years. No, maybe like the last 10 years. But it is interesting, like it did exist. And I don't know about egg freezing as much because I haven't heard as much about it. But I know, like, I have friends even who like were IVF babies, and like you never heard about IVF back then. But like 20, 30 years ago, like people weren't talking, like it was still happening, but people weren't talking about it as much. I don't know. I've heard mixed reviews on egg freezing. I have a few friends who have done it. I plan on doing it this year. God willing, my insurance pays for it. So I was like, I should do it because I'll be 31 and I'm not getting married. Like, even if I do get married, it's still like nice to have that, like, I guess, insurance. And you know what? And even if it, I don't know, it feels like a step, like, it feels like a step of having, I don't know, maybe not full insurance, but it's like what I'm doing everything I can do.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
And
like,
yeah.
it's kind of like in Hebrew, we use the term hishtadlut. Like, I'm doing my own hishtadlut. Like, I'm doing whatever I can about it. But I don't know. I've talked to my friends about it, and I do have friends who have gone through it. Like, they're in their 30s. And some of them, like one of my friends did the egg freezing, and she didn't get enough eggs in one cycle to appease her mind. So she did a second cycle. I had a friend who had like, it was a traumatic experience on her body. Like, she came out with like real physical issues from it, and she's had to like spend a lot of time and money in physical therapy from what it did to her body. And like, I just, it's a thing, and it's a big thing to do. Like, it's not like a light decision. There are a lot of risks, there are a lot of side effects. And I haven't, this is just all that I've heard from my friends. Like, I have my consultation scheduled, but I haven't actually like done anything yet. And but like, I don't know. It's really hard to say, because again, my friend even said she had a friend who came out with a ton of eggs, but none of them were good quality. Like,
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
you do,
Yeah.
like, and I'm very, I work at a job that it's covered by insurance. And I don't know in Europe about like insurance and all of that, but like in America, medical expensive like medical stuff like that is expensive, and not all insurance plans cover like those kinds of quote unquote elective things. So like, you could be paying upward like tens of thousands, like upward of $10,000 to do it, and there are organizations that help, but like, it's a lot of money, it's hard on your body, it's it's like a difficult process, and at the end of the day, your eggs might not even be viable.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it's a very individualistic. Like, I love the fact that your insurance is going to pay for this, and I think like in your when I were in your shoes, I think I would, of course, like I would do that, of course. Like, why not, right? Uh, Although I think you have still plenty of time, but that's I mean,
Yeah.
you're like in your
No, my I
um.
want to do it now while I still work. Like, I have no plans on leaving my job, but you don't know what's going to happen. So
No, you
while
never know, of course.
yeah, so while my thing is, while my insurance covers it, I want to go ahead and do it.
Right. Yeah. No, I fully understand. Like, I think it's a very personal choice, and I think it's a very individualistic question that every woman has to respond to herself. But I think, I mean, it really comes down. I strongly believe that it really comes down to your own happiness, because if kids are essential to you for your happiness, then of course, yeah, you should do it, right? But on the other hand, I think it's really like what I've understood in my humble 39 years is that society will always judge you. If you're
Yeah.
married, if you're not married, if you have kids, if you don't have kids, why you don't have kids, when are you planning, why you're single, why like society will always judge you. And I feel like as a woman, it's extremely difficult to withhold and to like to be true to your like I think our responsibility is just to be really true to ourselves and to do the things that feel right to you and the things that, like feel comfortable and okay for your own. And I feel like sometimes you just have to filter out any other opinions, filter out society. Like you get literally punished if you're going in a hotel and you're paying an extra room. Like you have automatically to have you have to pay an extra fee just because you're staying on your own. So,
Yeah.
society really builds, even if you're going like on a package holiday, on an organized vacation, like everything is like society really gives you like do everything care wise, right? Uh,
Mhm.
and like I feel like, I mean, I love being in a couple, but then I feel like I'm better off being on my own than being with the wrong person, because the wrong person drains so much energy out of you that you
Yeah.
prefer like being on your own, than wasting your time on someone that isn't just a good and a great fit for you.
Yeah, I agree. And especially in the Jewish community too. Like, I don't know, it was just the high holidays, like we've said. So in New York at least, you have to buy seats at the synagogue for holidays.
Mhm.
So okay, I was actually in the city for both Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So I bought my seats, fine. Some of the synagogues, the seats are less expensive if you have membership. In my old neighborhood that I lived in, I would buy a synagogue membership and then I got seats or it was like discounted seats or whatever. So, but I was in this group chat, or I'm in this group chat, and I haven't picked a synagogue that I want to pay membership to in my community now yet. It's just more like I can't commit. I can't commit to where I want to go. And I should like there was one synagogue I should have paid membership to for the past couple of years, but like I just now I don't know if I like even go there any like want to go there anymore. I also like I go to the young professional like minion and everything like on Shabbat. So I don't know. So it comes time though, like this time of year, people are looking into membership and all of that. And even in my old neighborhood, the reason why I paid membership to like the other synagogues, it was like, oh, buying seats for the holidays cost the same like a little bit less like for like maybe $20 more, I could just buy membership. And I'm like, oh, I'll buy membership. I come here, like it's real. But their membership was like $100, $200
Wow.
maximum. Like it was $100 maybe for the year. I don't think it was more than that. It might have been like it was definitely no more than $200. But here, memberships to synagogues are very expensive. Like which I didn't realize. So one of the synagogues, I didn't even look into real membership. They have a young professional rate, and I just like haven't done it. But I still think like that's maybe $100, $200. But a different synagogue that a lot of the people in this group chat go to, the membership is like over $500 for the year. It's like almost
Wow.
$600 for the year. And so they were sending the rates back and forth in the group chat. And I think it was 550. It was like 550 for a single person, 1100 for a couple for the year. And I'm like, okay, fine, that's the same price. But then it had a price for like a new couple. It's like, oh, within their first like 2 years of marriage, it's like $800.
Wow.
And I'm
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
that is discrimination. And I told the girl in the group, I was like, find someone and get the new couple rate. Like, why should new couples have to pay less than single people? Like, they're already sharing rent with
That's
someone.
crazy.
They
Yeah.
have two incomes. Like, why are we
Yeah.
discounting couples rates? Like, that's it's not fair. Like, you already had like I'm paying rent by myself. If I had somebody to share my rent with, wow, like, okay. So, like, why am I expected to pay my rent by myself, pay all my expenses by myself, and then pay higher rates at these Jewish
Oh,
things?
yeah.
Like,
It's crazy. And
why
they,
are you
yeah.
discounting couples? And I get it if it's like a discount for families. I get that, but like it's not. This was like couples in their first 2 years of marriage. And one thing about my community is there are couples who live here but it is a primarily like singles. I mean, there are couples and families, but it's a huge singles community. And a lot of people that I know personally, once they get married, they might stay here for a year or two, but then they leave. They go
Of
to a
course. Yeah.
different community.
Yeah.
They move out of
Yeah.
they move out of New York City. So, like to give like most couples who are here are only there for a couple years, pretty much.
Yeah. I
So
mean, which is normal, right? I mean, being Jewish is expensive, right? It's really
yeah, but I
something.
just like our society puts enough on us as singles, but like why does the like why keep why? Like like you said, I get it for like a hotel. Why is it as a couple? I mean, that one it might be like two beds, like the rate, like if you go by yourself. My friend and I booked a trip. We booked a trip, we did a package. We're going to Mexico. We booked like a package hotel deal. And fine, there's two of us. So we booked a room, there's two beds, everything. A third friend wanted to come join us. And we're like, "Oh, okay, great. Like we don't want to share beds." So get
Of
someone else
course.
to come. I was like, recruit
Yeah.
someone else, get a package together,
Yeah.
and it'll be fun. Like we'll go four people. I was like, just choose someone we like. But she was like having a hard time finding someone else who wanted to go. And she was looking into the rates for a one person in a room. And it was so much more expensive per person when you're only one person in the room. And yeah, so it's like what you're saying. It's hard. It's hard
Yeah, it is
because like
hard.
society pushes us into being in couples, especially in the Jewish community. But like being in a couple isn't always you like ideal for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like, I mean, I'm 100% sure you've seen this article where they said like in a couple of years in America, there will be in society 45% of women single, predicted to
Wow.
be single. And that's a lot if you say like that's really, really a lot because yeah, I mean, because, society is shifting. Like, women do make their own money. We're not dependent anymore on men. We're not dealing with the bullshit that we sometimes have to deal.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, especially like if you're getting, like, I feel like if I'm going out there for dating right now, like I do filter. I have, because you have more experience, because you went through some things in life, you do filter. You do not like things that I've been very tolerant in the past, I'm not anymore. Because I think that's a good part of being more mature, so to say, so that you can really know what you want. And then you're going to question, okay, are you going to invest time in this or not? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of I don't know if this is like in everywhere, but I think a lot of men in at least in the Orthodox in the Jewish community, I don't something opened my eyes. I I don't know, I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast yet or not, but basically I have an upcoming guest, so hopefully you'll get to hear, and she works in the dating field. So you'll hear her episode and we'll talk a lot about it. But when I was talking to her about coming on as a guest, she said, "Oh, I actually am having a webinar this week. If you're free, like feel free to I'll send you the link." So I signed up for the webinar, it was free. And I was listening in on it, and she and again, we'll talk about this when she comes on, so stay tuned everybody, but she made it like interactive so people could like chime in and whatever. I'm not going to talk about like what the webinar was about. It was about dating,
Hmm.
like Jewish
Yeah.
dating, but I'll let I don't know what she's going to talk about when she comes on, so I don't want to like spoil any of her stuff. But one thing I noticed was some of the people who chimed in, like first the well some of the ones who chimed in were men who I assumed to be a little bit older, like on the older side, never married, and from the sounds of it, like a little bit socially off. So, which is fine. I'm not saying that was the whole webinar. I'm just saying
Yeah.
like those were some of the voices of the people I heard.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
one guy said something on the webinar and it opened my eyes to something, and it just kind of like not shook me a little bit, but I was just like, wow. Basically, and this is something I say often. A lot of the times I say that I do want to get married and I do want a partner and I want a family, but I am happy single. I only want to marry someone if they're going to add to my life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is what
I
basically what
love
you're
that.
saying. So
Yes.
this guy comes on and he basically says that he's like, yeah, all these women say this, but I don't think that's fair. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what? And it's
Yeah.
just like, it opened my eyes that these guys, and not all of them, I'm not saying it's all of them, a lot of these guys have this sense of entitlement that
Yeah,
they are
exactly. Yeah.
entitled to a wife. They
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah,
entitled to a
absolutely.
woman. And
Yeah.
like, no matter how this guy was probably, I don't want to, I don't remember if he said his age. I don't want to guess it, but I'm guessing it was upwards of 40, maybe even older. He sounded a little bit off. I couldn't tell. He didn't say like what he did, but these guys all sound like they all think that they are entitled to a wife. And it's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the
you're
thing. Yeah, I love
literally
that. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
saying that you aren't even going to add something to her life, but you don't think it's fair that she's asking that you add something to her life. Like,
Yeah,
why?
and yeah. Yeah, I just want to add, I'm sorry, Rachel, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you,
no,
but
no,
I just
no.
want to add, I just love this because also in my friend circles, I have like guys in their 40s or like 45-ish, more like, approaching their 50s already. And they still are like so self-confident in saying, you know what? I'm gonna have someone mid-20s, someone thin, and someone successful, etc. So all these kind of perception, like where you feel like, dude, just look yourself in the mirror. I mean, I'm sorry, you made it a certain age without being married, without having kids,
Yeah,
you it's really, and this is where I feel like it shifts so much from a woman because the perception of a man who's in his 40s and the perception of a woman who's in 40s is just like, like all these things why men love dating someone younger. I mean, those cliches and all stuff just gets more and more and more. And like, I feel like also now, uh, like the younger guys, like I was dating someone 28 and he was 28 and he was treating me better than any 40 someone. He was really treating me with respect. He was opening the doors, he was being like a true gentleman, which I love because he made me feel like a real woman. And the next thing you know is like you're sitting to someone who's 45 and he keeps just dragging you down and just like, oh my God, the world is so bad, da 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 da. And then you have
yeah,
this youngster next to you who's like full of life, full of positivity, optimism, you know?
yeah.
And
I mean, I understand that like I'm still pretty young, but I even get that too. Like I go out with guys in their 30s and like I went out with a guy who's in his mid 30s last year. This is like over a year ago. And there was a whole miscommunication, and I might have talked about this already, like last year when it happened, but there was a whole miscommunication. We went on a date. I thought the date was okay. I wasn't like extremely interested. I didn't have any extreme feelings about like the date. I was like, he seems like a nice guy. He's a normal dude. He has a good job. I can't say that I feel a lot, like, I don't really feel chemistry, but like, I would be open to going on a second date if he asked for it.
right.
And he, a friend had set it up. It was a friend set up. And I didn't hear from him for a few days. Mind you, like, I was 29, he was 34. Like, we're not like we've been dating for a while, like in our lives. Like, this isn't we're not brand new to dating. We know how dating works. And I was like, oh, okay, I get like this is weird. Like he's 34. Why is he ghosting me? So after like
Wow.
five, like I think we
Wow.
went out on a Thursday. So finally by Tuesday, I'm like, I'm just sending him a text to just say like I don't really appreciate being ghosted, but have a
Yeah,
nice
I mean,
life.
this is really
Yeah, but like
disrespectful.
have a nice life, whatever. And he sends me back this whole message and he's like, I'm so sorry. I thought she like the girl who set it up was going to talk to you, and then basically the girl called me and she explained the situation. And again, I'm in the modern orthodox dating world, and there are more religious, like in the more religious dating circles, everything is done between like a go between. So like
Yeah.
if we were in
Yeah.
a more religious circle, like maybe like she would have like gotten back to me, like he would have told her, and she was in the middle. But we're in the modern orthodox dating scene. Like she literally just set it up and like sent him my number. Like
Yeah, of
That's
course.
how it was. Like
Yeah,
she talked to each of us.
yeah, yeah,
We both said we were interested, so she sent him my number and we took it from there, the two of us. So
yeah, which is
she's
great. I
not,
mean, this is how it starts, right?
yeah, like
Yeah,
she's not responsible for anything. But he apparently calls her and was like, "Oh, I couldn't tell if Rachel was interested. Can you gauge her interest and get back to me?" And like, I guess she didn't understand what he wanted from her. And like, she has a busy life. Like, she has her own life going on.
of course. Yeah.
And
I
like,
mean,
this,
she's not, I
there,
mean, this is something, yeah, this is something that, I mean, you would go back to a Shatkan, right? Or a Shatkanit and
yeah, but
ask.
it wasn't like that. It was just a friend setting it up. And like, for me, it's like, okay, be a man. You're 34 years old. Be a man. Like, if you're not interested, tell me you're not interested. If you
Yeah.
want a second date, send me a text with the chance that I'm gonna reject you.
Yeah, I love that
Like
how you put this
it's
because,
not
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
grow up and be a man. And
I
then
love that. Yeah. And this is like being a man. And this is so difficult, I believe, in the Jewish world because you have a
yeah,
Yiddish mama, which you love, who hands you the soup bowl and who feeds you like a kid, right? But
yeah,
you're not being a man if you're like, yeah, I mean, but yeah, like, I love that how you put this. Like, be a man, be a grown up, take responsibility. And I feel this is the most difficult part for him because he's afraid to be rejected. He's afraid that he's not going to earn enough money in order to provide for a family. He's afraid of all this responsibility, which do come if you start to have a family, you know?
yeah. And I don't know. I also meet guys who are in La La Land. Like, listen, I have a decent job. I have a good career. But I set myself up for that. When I
Yeah.
was in school, I studied up, I went down a path where I knew I would have a good career. And like I meet these other guys who are in la di da land and they're just like, "Oh yeah, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine." I was like, "No, you can't raise especially in the Orthodox world. I'm like, you can't raise an Orthodox family on that income." And they're also like,
First,
"Oh
yeah.
yeah, she doesn't have to work." I'm like, "Yes, she does. Like, you want to live in this New York community making what you're making, sending your kids to Jewish day school, living an Orthodox life, thinking that you can provide, like, what are you doing?"
Yeah, and we're speaking of life quality here, right? And
Yeah.
you want to have like it's so important to have a life quality where you feel safe, where you feel like you want to feel,
Yeah.
and I
I would
feel
rather
like
be single than poor any day of the week. Like, that's just like, I work really hard. And I get it. Life happens. And like, I get it. Sometimes it's not always in your control. But if it came between, like, I don't know, I work very hard. And again, I'm not saying like I'm rich. I'm really not at all. But I work really hard and I try to be smart about my spending.
yeah, yeah,
And like right now, I live a life that I enjoy and I'm able to do the things that I want to do within reason. And again, I don't think if I have kids, it would be the same exact thing. But I don't want that to be my struggle. I don't want to like get married and that person bring me down and I can't do things that make me happy anymore.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to, I'm sure you've seen the Netflix series that came up with Adam Brody, the one
Yeah.
what's it called? Nothing goes wrong or nothing goes
Um I can't
what was the
remember.
title? Do you remember the title? Nothing goes as planned or something like that with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. Um,
Nobody wants this.
Nobody wants this. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like I love the scenes, especially when Kristen Bell appears and everyone says, "Oh my God, she's a shiksa," and she goes to the temple. And so, like, those scenes are so funny and so great. And you feel like if you watch this as a Jewish woman, you also go, like, "Oh, great. Okay. So now a blonde shiksa comes along."
Yeah.
And like I feel like it's really, but I think what's more, and I don't know if you saw the show with Esther Perel where she kind of She kind of made a bit of analysis on this one, and she said, like, I love what she said, that it's actually they're both in their, I mean, I think they're both 44, and that she loves it because it shows like love knows no age and no borders and no boundaries, etc. But I was thinking like it's like this, I don't know if you remember the scene when his mother, uh when she comes and she invites Kristen Bell over, and then she eats the prosciutto,
Yeah.
the mom, it's just like, I think it just shows how complex our Jewish world is, and
Yeah.
how, like, even for us it's even difficult. Like, I mean, I'm Ashkenazi, but if I'm entering like a Sephardic home, you're also being judged automatically, because and
Yeah.
I just love the series because it really shows how complex our own world is.
Yeah.
and
No, it
and it, yeah.
no, I totally agree. But yeah, I didn't love that they showed all of the Jewish women as these like tough, hard brunettes with like no personality, like harsh and like I don't know, like the sister-in-law. Like we're not all like that. Like Jewish
No,
women
we're
are
we're definitely not like this. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's being a bit, yeah, I also find it a bit extreme. I think the show is super funny, and everyone listening to this, just go on Netflix and watch it.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it does have a bit of yeah. It's interesting, I find, because it also defines a bit of our dating world, and it also explains why he, as a rabbi, falls in love with a shiksa. So.
yeah, yeah. No, I think I totally agree with you. Um, but yeah, Paulina, before we get to our wrap-up segment, do you have anything else you would like to share?
No, I'm good. I'm super happy that I got to speak with you, and also to um yeah, I think to I think it's never easy, and we got to stay optimistic, and we just started a new Jewish year right now, and we got to hope for the best, and I think we're going to make the best out of our lives. And I really hope that every one of us meets his other better half. And I think
Oh
it's,
man.
I mean, I love that you're doing this podcast, because it really, it shows us that it's not only happening in the States, it's not only happening in Israel. It's, as you said in the beginning, it's a worldwide thing. It's not easy to date
Yeah,
in times like this. And I just love that you put us all together and give us hope and encouragement that there is someone out there for us, and that, yeah, and that everything will be fine, and that it's just a question of time.
yeah, I agree. And thank you. And thank you for coming on. Okay, so just to get into our wrap-up segment, Paulina, I know we've been talking a lot, but can you give me and my listeners one piece of dating advice?
Ah, I think just try not to take yourself too seriously. I think the when you're on a date, you're like in a frame, and you got to do da 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 and this and that. I think it's so important just to live in the moment, enjoy where you are, be grateful that you are having the opportunity to go out and meet someone new, and not forcing yourself to open up your checklist and go like, okay, is this going to be my potential husband or not? But just enjoy the time, just have great fun, and really just live in the moment and be present and enjoy the little things that do come along with dating.
I like that. And then last but not least, do you have your tagline?
Um, Trust your intuition and go with your gut.
Okay, I like that. Thank you so much again, Paulina, for coming on. This was such a pleasure. I'm so happy to have you on here and hear about your dating experiences. So thank you
Thank you so
again.
much. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel. It was a blast. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And Sticky Situation Nation, you'll catch me next time. Bye, everybody.